It's Matt from Z93's Morning After, joined in studio by Spencer, Joe, and Dan from Ice Nine Kills. Nice enough to come in before their sold-out show in Flint to play some acoustic songs for some listeners. It's my understanding that you guys haven't done the acoustic thing all that much just yet. You're sort of just now doing the radio visits.
Yeah, it's kind of a new venture for us. Usually we spend our mornings in the cemetery, so this is a nice change. It's a different setting.
You guys out on tour right now. You just wrapped up a couple of supporting slots with, you were out with New Year's Day and Falling in Reverse. You guys were out with Atreyu late last year, early this year. The headlining run is going on right now. It's a sold out. I mean, a ton of the shows are sold out. It's got to be awesome to play those headlining shows with the full production, the full set. You guys get to do what you guys do because you're known for your live show.
Yeah, it's definitely cool to be able to play a longer set and incorporate more of the theatrical elements that we like to with our live show.
Your fan base is incredible. I went to Sonic Temple. You guys were not on the bill, and I think I saw, if it wasn't Ice Nine Kills, Motionless in White, there were more Ice Nine Kills and Motionless in White t-shirts in the crowd than any other band that was even on the bill, which was absolutely amazing. What do you think it is about Ice Nine Kills that has connected with your audience so much that, I mean, you guys, you do the special t-shirt sales where you guys have so much happening in your fan base. I mean, you're selling out these shows. What is it about Ice Nine Kills that you think has connected with so many people so strongly?
I think that there are just as many sick and twisted people out there as us, I guess, and we're just connecting with those sick people. No, I think that horror has always been at the surface of pop culture and kind of comes and goes, you know, in the 70s and 80s with the slasher craze, and then died off a bit in the 90s and back again with Scream and revitalizing the slasher genre. And then, you know, in the early 2000s with films like Saw and Paranormal Activity. I think that horror always sort of permeates under the surface, and right now it's bigger than it's ever been, and it's cool to see our brand of music connecting with a lot of people. I think it's a lot of that kind of Comic-Con culture, very fanatical.
Joined in studio by the guys from Ice Nine Kills. It's interesting when you go to the Ice Nine Kills Wikipedia page, they use a lot of different terms to describe your band. There's theatricore, there's metalcore, there's just metal, there's heavy metal. How would you describe Ice Nine Kills? Because what people probably don't realize is you've been at this for 17 years at this point. You guys have been around. I mean, the band has been around for a long time, and you've gone through this sort of progression. So how would you describe the band today?
I think it's kind of hard to put an exact label on it. There's so many different elements of what we're doing, you know, everything from very, very extreme metal and even some beatdown. There's some beatdown parts in there. And you know, my love of 90s rock and 90s punk, you know, from the SoCal era, a lot of the Epitaph record scene, and a lot of theater. You know, I grew up loving plays like Les Miserables and Phantom of the Opera, and obviously being obsessed with the horror genre and everything that goes into that. So it's sort of a melting pot of all of those influences.
You know, you talk a lot about horror. Obviously, the new album, The Silver Scream, is available now, and the whole album, every song on the album is inspired by a horror movie, whether it be A Great Mistake with The Crow, you've got Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Silent Night, Deadly Night. There are a ton of different movies that are represented on the album. Was that something you had always wanted to do? I mean, I know you guys did the literature album before this, so was it just kind of the natural thing to do, was go, you know, all right, let's put out an album that's totally inspired by horror?
Every Trick in the Book, which was before this album, was definitely a precursor to The Silver Scream. It was the first time I dabbled in really doing a concept record, not in the traditional sense of a concept record, but having an album that had a theme, and that seemed to really not only go over well with our followers and seemed to gain us a lot more, but it was something that was very enjoyable to put together, and a very interesting way of songwriting, because you already have the story there. It's just your job and your duty to retell it and give it the attention that these classic books and then later films deserve. So I think it was just a natural progression, as you said.
It's certainly a risk to record an entire album that's inspired by horror movies. Were you fearful that people might consider this a gimmick?
I think that I definitely got a little bit of flack from some of the people I was, you know, telling the idea to initially, like, no, you know, you did books, you don't do films, like maybe do that on a later one, but you don't want to get pegged as that band. And I've just always been a a guy that kind of goes with my gut instinct, and I thought it was the right move, and didn't really listen to anyone who said it wasn't.
Was there a when you started to write the album? Was there a list of movies you guys you knew you wanted to hit upon? Was there one movie in particular that you had? Okay, I have this idea for this song, and then it turns into the entire album. How did the idea come about? And once you had that list of movies that you were going to write the songs and that were going to inspire the songs.
In our home studio, I had a big whiteboard, and I wrote basically every single horror movie that I thought would make a compelling song, and then whittled it down from there. I didn't want to double up on two films that were too similar. There was talk of doing Psycho, but then can you do American Psycho? We didn't want to do too much of the same. We wanted to keep it fresh. And with franchises that are somewhat similar in the sense that, there are a lot of parallels between Jason Voorhees and Michael Myers, I decided that, if we're going to do those two songs, let's do Halloween from the perspective of Michael Myers, and then let's do Jason Voorhees and Friday the 13th from the perspective of the dead counselors. So it was a lot of kind of trying to figure out how to make each song its own voice.
Joined in studio by the guys from Ice Nine Kills, playing a sold-out show tonight at the Machine Shop in Flint. You guys have got a ton of different movies represented on this album. You said that you had a list of movies that you thought would work well. Is there one that you're bummed out didn't make it on this album? And is there a possibility that maybe a Volume 2 could happen? One
of my favorite films in general, not just horror, is Scream. And we just ran out of time to track that one. And who knows, you might see that soon.
When you guys have an album that's so greatly inspired by horror movies, it's important to have visuals. So how important was it for you guys? You have, I believe, 5 music videos that coincide with songs from the album. How important was it for you to have that visual aspect? In the videos, you get to be, the boat is on Crystal Lake. You guys are around the campfire at Camp Crystal Lake. It's awesome to see those visuals. And I'm sure for you, too, being a fan of this stuff, to get to kind of recreate some of that stuff has got to be awesome as well.
It was definitely kind of a dream come true, as cliche, or nightmare rather come true. From the inception of the idea of the entire album, I knew that I wanted to have that visual element to coincide with the release. And every time I was writing a riff or writing a lyric or a melody, I was definitely picturing how the story would play out visually. And I didn't want to, with the film portion of the project, just retell and rehash the movies, but also create its own narrative. So that's why I came up with the story of how, I'm seeing a psychiatrist and I'm playing Spencer from Ice Nine Kills and talking about these dreams and disturbing images I was having. And that's how we sort of weave in and out of the movies.
You talked a little bit about the album and the fact that it's inspired by all these horror movies, but another cool thing about the album is you've got a ton of guests on here, guys from Finch and Mest and Less Than Jake. As someone who grew up listening to these bands, how awesome is it to now have this album out there and you've got all these guys that are like, yeah, I want to be a part of that. How does this stuff sort of happen?
It's really cool for me. As I was saying earlier, one of my very early influences was punk and ska. That's the kind of music that made me want to tour full time and write my own music, and became friends with some of these bands during festivals, random shows where we would be playing in the UK, and Less Than Jake or Phoenix TX would be on a festival, and met Randy from Finch and became friends with Tony from Mest. And to me, the coolest thing is to really show our fans who maybe don't know much about those bands because they don't listen to punk or ska, and try to introduce them to stuff that influenced me. And so to collaborate on songs with people that I look up to and still I'm influenced by to this day, it was a great honor.
Joined in studio by the guys from Ice Nine Kills, a sold-out show tonight at the Machine Shop in Flint. How much do you think this album has helped introduce the band to a larger audience? Because you had a fan base already, and now you're getting the major radio airplay. A Great Mistake is everywhere, and you've got these sold-out shows that are now happening. You're playing these bigger shows. How much do you think that's a credit to this album in particular?
I think we've definitely seen a large boost since the Silver Scream came out. I think that Every Trick in the Book set the stage for the Silver Scream and sort of introduced our fans to the idea that, wow, Ice Nine Kills can really do a cool concept here. And I think that this was, as we said, the next natural progression. and it seemed to come out at the right time. And we're really pleased with the reaction so far.
I know it's been a few months since it happened, but you've got to tell me about getting banned by Disney. Because that was you guys were set to play the House of Blues in Orlando. That is on Disney property. And leading up to the show, they said, we can't have this band come and play this show. And you guys, of course, had fun with it. You released a limited edition T-shirt that made light of this situation. It was one of those things. I mean, for a band to be banned by Disney is kind of it's kind of a fun thing.
It was really funny, man. I think the only negative thing is that I love playing in Orlando. It's always a great show, and so that was a bummer for our fans. But instead of sort of pissing and moaning about it, we said, let's just have fun with this situation rather. And I hooked up with Mike Cortada, who does a lot of the band's album art, and kind of gave him my concept for this line of shirts, and people went nuts for it, and everyone responded how we thought they would respond, that it was funny that we were being banned, and there was a lot of publicity from it.
Oh yeah,
a lot of news outlets picked it up and kind of ran with it. So I think that it turned out to be a bit of a blessing in disguise, and now we're playing our revenge show, sold out show in Orlando in just a week.
That's awesome.
And it's funny because Mickey, or someone dressed, we don't know if it's the real Mickey or someone dressed as Mickey, has been following around the tour protesting outside. So if you're listening, Mickey, watch your step.
We might see Mickey. Maybe Mickey will make an appearance tonight at the Machine Shop in Flint.
He might.
Okay.
He's dead meat mouse. Or mouse meat, rather.
Once you guys wrap up, you got the headlining tour going on right now. You're going to play some festival days. What's the plan for the rest of 2019 and going into 2020? I know you're heading to Europe at one point. You've got some overseas stuff, but I suspect that you guys are going to be busy for a while. We've
got a pretty full schedule going on. We're excited to get over to Europe. We haven't been there in a while and headline, and it's going to be a great rest of 2019 and big plans for 2020.
Once again, joined in studio by Ice Nine Kills, a sold-out show at the Machine Shop in Flint. Appreciate you guys coming in, doing the acoustic thing for some listeners, and appreciate you guys taking some time to come and hang out. The other members of Ice Nine Kills are in the studio as well. Joe and Dan are here back there. So they're waving. It's radio. They don't understand how that works, I don't think.
They're really handsome for anyone who can't see.
Yeah, very attractive gentlemen.
Yeah, we all have faces for radio.
Yeah, right. The faces for radio. Yeah, it's a bunch of unattractive people in the studio right now, but if we had the video, it would be... we would Photoshop faces on there and make us look much better.
Please use low resolution.
Ice Nine Kills tonight at the Machine Shop in Flint. Guys, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.